of Allah, the entirely merciful, the especially merciful. May peace, mercy, and blessings of Allah the Almighty be upon all of you. I am Umar bin Abid, and you're watching Umar Linguistics. Dear viewers, in this lecture, we are going to solve study questions of Chapter 1, The Origins of Language. I'll explain the answers. And there are recently the 7th edition of the study of language has been published in 2020, January 2020. So I'll answer all the questions from 4th, 5th and 6th and 7th edition. Actually, in 7th edition, there are all the study questions which were in 4th, 5th or 6th edition. But there are some new questions as well in the 7th edition as well. So this channel is bilingual, so you can watch the similar video in Urdu as well. I have given the link in the description below. If your native language is Urdu or if you understand better in Urdu, but this video is in English. So we have completed this chapter and we have discussed all the concepts, so I'll not go in detail about every question, but you can watch those videos as well. So I have added the link of the complete chapter in the description below as well as in these cards, and I have also added the link of the same video in Urdu as well in the description. So let's start. Question 1. When did written language develop? So about 500 years it is believed, or we have concluded, the researchers have concluded that about 500 years ago the different manuscripts have been found which were you can say traced to be 5,000 years ago. So written language might have developed 5,000 years ago. It's a rough estimate which the researchers have actually concluded. And as far as spoken language is concerned, as we have already discussed, it is believed to be spoken about 100,000 years ago or 5,000 years ago. So spoken language believed to be developed far away, or you can say many years ago as compared to written language. Question 2. When can we say the human auditory system has begun working? At about 2 months before birth, or after 7 months actually. After 7 months in the womb, humans' auditory system started working. So it's a very interesting phenomena, and researchers have conducted many researches on this, that just before the birth, just about 2 months before birth, the auditory system of the children started working, and they start become familiar with the environment. Even they produce when they are born, and they have preference of the same intonation of their mother. So because mother is the most near to them, and what mother speaks, in what intonation patterns the mother speaks, the child also have preference for that intonation. Question 3. What did Darwin think early communication was based on? So actually Darwin noted that human might have started to speak, or he said that the origins of language might be the musical notes and rhythm, and he said that humans might had tried to charm each other with these musical notes, and therefore he believed that musical notes and rhythm might be the origin of language. Question 4. What two things did early human need to take control in order to produce intonation? So actually it's a new question which has been added in the 7th edition. What two things did early human need to take control in order to produce intonation? So to produce intonation, we have to control two things actually: control of vibration of the vocal folds and control of respiratory patterns. These are the two things which we have to control to produce intonation. And it has also been uh, concluded, or it is also believed that early human beings also produce intonation, and they were able to control vibration of their vocal folds and their respiratory system. Therefore they were able to produce language. Question 5: what percentage of human breathing while speaking normally consists of in breaths? So usually we speak, while speaking we exhale from our lungs, but there is a little portion of our speech in which we actually take inside, not outside, and it is just about 10%. And what are these 10% of speech? Usually include the sudden sound like ow, ouch, oh, ah, which are usually sudden sounds of happiness or sudden sounds of pain. So only 10% of our speech is uh, that in which we actually breathe air in our lungs. Question 6: what is the difference between the position of the larynx in humans and other primates? Primates include chimpanzees, monkeys, and something like that, some animals like that. So it is much lower in the throat in human. It is just this is the only difference that you can see here, that in human beings larynx, our voice box, is lower in our mouth, and therefore we have a longer cavity, you can see, as compared to animals have. So you can see in animals this is the larynx, and this is their epiglottis. So there is no distance actually between their larynx and their epiglottis or their tongue. So therefore they are unable to produce speech like us. Question 7: why are interjections such as oh, yuck considered to be unlikely sources of human speech sounds? Why we cannot consider that these are the sounds which might be the source of the origin of language? And the reason we have already discussed, that these interjections contain sounds that are not usually produced in ordinary speech. This is the first point. Secondly, such type of sounds, as we have already discussed, make only 10% of our whole speech. So they are usually produced with sudden intakes of breath, which is opposite of ordinary talk. In ordinary talk, we usually produced on exhaled speech. We usually talk on exhaled speech. So therefore, we cannot believe that this could be the source of origin of language. Question 8: what is the basic idea behind the Bow Wow theory of language origin? So the basic idea is that primitive words, or you can say the original words, primitive words could have been imitations of the natural sounds that early humans hear around them, and all modern language have words that are onomatopic in some way. So the idea behind the Bow theory is that humans might have heard some natural sounds of birds, of animals around them, and they might have tried to imitate these sounds. So this could be the possible origin of language. But as we discussed in the lectures, that this is even this is just a, you can say, speculation. There is no fact in that, and in all languages there are only very few onomatopic sounds. Question 9: why is it difficult to agree with the Semiticus that Phrygian might have been the original human language? So we know many uh, people in the past try to find out that what could be the original language, and they sometimes isolated the children. So Semanticus also performed such an experiment, which I have discussed in the divine source of language. First, his conclusions were based on a very little evidence. There were only very little evidence. Secondly, it seems more reasonable to assume that children in his study were producing a god-like sounds. So as we know that he kept a child in the company of a mute shepherd and a goat, and after a few years, I think after 2 years, the children started speaking the sound like Bacchus, and which uh, many of the researchers or many of the commentators believed that that child might have heard that sound from the goat ba ba. And because what the recent researches exhibit, that children who are isolated and who do not hear any human sounds in their early age, like Jenny or Victor, which we'll talk in chapter 13, so they usually do not produce any kind of language. Question 10. Where is the pharynx and how did it become an important part of human sound production? So actually pharynx is just above the larynx, and secondly, when the larynx moved lower, the pharynx became longer and acted as a resonator, resulting in increased range and clarity of sounds produced by the larynx. So actually pharynx is the whole cavity. Pharynx is uh, not, you can say, not you can say another area or another part of our vocal tract. Pharynx is just this whole cavity which include larynx. So because this whole cavity is called pharynx, so therefore it acts as a resonator. And here you can see this. So pharynx is all this. It is just a cavity. There is no part separately here. So this is the human pharynx. You can see the length. This is the you can say the pharynx of a chimp, and it is very short. And this is the pharynx of a child, because in the early age, sorry, we might say infant, in uh, a human infant actually has a very short pharynx, very short length of pharynx, but initially but when he grows, so his pharynx also becomes longer. Question 11. Why do you think that young deaf children who become fluent in sign language would be cited in support of innateness hypothesis? First of all, we need to know what is innateness hypothesis. I have discussed in the previous lectures of this chapter in detail. In short, innateness hypothesis suggests that humans have innate capacity to speak language, to use language. So why do you think that young deaf children who become fluent in sign language would be cited in support of? How we can cite, or how we can support our idea of innateness hypothesis by giving the example of deaf children? The reason is that if those deaf children do not develop speech first, as we know, deaf children do not usually develop speech first, then their language ability would not seem to depend on the physical adaptations of teeth, larynx that are involved in speaking. Because the deaf children do not develop speech, do not develop speech. And as we have discussed in the physical adaptation source, that might be the human teeth, larynx, these might could be the one of the source or one of the reason why human could speak. No doubt these are some aspects which make us able to produce speech sounds, but there are some other things as well, because these deaf children do not develop speech at first, so therefore even then they become very fluent in sign language. So it suggests that it's not all about teeth or larynx. It about something else. It could be a gene, a lad, a language acquisition device, which Noam Chomsky called. And it is actually, therefore it is concluded that it is something innate which have been wired in our genes, that we use language, either sign language or either spoken language. So, if all children, including those born deaf, can acquire language at about the same time. Another thing, these deaf children also acquire sign language at the same speed of those children who acquire spoken language. So, therefore, they must be born with a special capacity to do so, and this is called innateness hypothesis. Alright, the conclusion is that it must be innate and hence genetically determined. Question 12. With which of the 7 sources would you associate the following quotation? What are the 7 sources? First of all, these are actually the divine source, the natural sound source, the musical source, the physical adaptation source, the genetic source, and the social interaction source. So, these are some sources, 6 to 7. So, from these 7 sources, uh, to which source this quote match? Chewing, licking, and sucking are extremely widespread mammalian activities which, in terms of casual observation, have obvious similarities with speech. So it is actually the physical adaptation source, but because it's saying chewing, licking, and sucking are extremely widespread mammalian activities. Alright, so this is the answer to question 12, and this is all about uh, this lecture, and these are the 2 references. So I hope you have understood it. If you have any doubt, or if you feel any mistake throughout my lecture, so you can give feedback in the comments box. I shall always acknowledge it. So don't forget to give your feedback. Remember in your prayers. Jazakallah khairan, and thank you.